Welcome back. You here with Goldberg. Today we'll be talking about Inflation Nation. Obviously, been in the news if you continue to watch it. I'm not going to bother rehashing too much of the advice I gave in the past because it's become commonsensical at this point. You should have canned food or be getting more of it. Basic materials to make like bread, other items. Uh, if you have MREs, that's not a bad thing to keep aside. Dehydrated foods, that sort of thing, and water. Be careful with the libertarians who tell you, go out to Alaska and hunt caribou. Well, first of all, and I made this dude really butthurt when I was trying to break it down for him, you have to be a halfway decent hunter. If you have no experience with it, that could take some time. You might have competition from other hunters. Even if you shoot the thing, now you have to transport it, which, what if fuel costs are prohibitive? So you transport it, you skin it, you clean it, you have to cook and eat some of it, and then try to preserve the rest. Do you have power for your refrigerator? Do you know how to salt meat? I'm not saying that hunting or indeed fishing are out of the picture, but these sort of libertarian schemes of just run away to the wilderness without any adequate preparation are obviously not going to be successful. So see it as like a well-rounded approach. If you have an aerial garden, that's a cool thing. If you have a garden itself, that's positive. You want different sources, particularly if you're not the number one outdoorsman. You've been doing prepping stuff since you were born. With that being said, we can talk about. I'll move off of this screen because it's sort of giving me a seizure. We can talk about what is my approach generally in response to this. I'll just quickly say, in terms of jobs, if you are still working at Mickey Donald's or the gig economy or retail, you need to find something else, whether you are enrolling in a trade school. And some trade schools don't pay that much, so you're going to have to sort of tighten the belt. You want to either work in a factory that deals with production of something essential like dairy, bread, maybe metals, that sort of thing. Ammunition defense contracting is not a bad idea, I should note. Or local government, state governments, contractors for governments. Those are the areas that you're going to be relatively secure. Those are the jobs that are going to be harder to get a hold of if you wait 6 to 8 months. It's just a piece of advice. Yeah, I know Mickey Donald's is amazing, but people might start going, well, I guess I can just have some ramen instead of burger and fries, even though it breaks my heart and my fat ass. Could happen. So think ahead. Stop assuming everything's going to be okay just because whatever. I'm not even sure how these people rationalize. If you can cut expenses in your life, all right. For myself, there's only so much I can do in the sense that the main expense monthly that I really can do without is my other gym membership, which I use on off days. But even there, I'm not sure if I will because it's good to have available. So we'll see. Invest in your health. Keep your teeth clean. Uh, Eat halfway decently. I'm not going to sacrifice, because food is a major expense for me, I'm not going to sacrifice my health just to eat garbage so that it saves a few bucks. And I don't eat much to begin with, so that's not really going to be on the table. In terms of investing, I'm not changing all that much. I will continue putting it in the Roth 401k, but mostly in the Trad 401k. You say, why would you do that? History tells us that the stock market usually recovers. Now you can claim, oh, this is different, but you're going to be taxed regardless. So if you have a reasonably high income, they're going to tax you. I don't have many tax shelters on account of the fact that I don't have a massive business. I don't have any kids. I don't have alimony. Well, can you even deduct that? I'm not sure. So it makes sense for me to do it, at least for now. Uh, Now, yeah, you might end up paying massive taxes down the road. Who can say? But I'll continue with stocks. If you ever read the book I wrote, The Mortal Investor, we explain that under the Weimar Republic, we hear a lot about Weimar 2.0. Yeah, in more ways than one. But under the Weimar Republic, which was compared to us a rump state, no colonies, very weak militarily, massively in debt, and far less developed, there were a lot of people living without electricity and running water in Germany at the time compared to even other parts of the world that were much closer and relatively, again, developed, probably saying relatively too many times there. you can say, well, I'm going to pull it all out and have cash. Maybe you could put it into a house. I was going to buy a second house maybe a month or so ago. Looked at it, needed some work, but it was reasonably priced in line with the 5 or 6% interest rates for mortgages. I was in the process of getting pre-approved, wanted another person to look at it because they had some more experience with that type of work, and it already sold. I am not going out and buying a $450,000 townhouse at 5 or 6%. You're like, yeah, but it'll go up to 600,000. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I'm not getting to that debt, certainly not right now, and not at those interest rates. So you have to decide what you're going to do with the money. I guess you could buy more guns. Yeah. But there again, a lot of these low libertarian fantasies, if you're not trained, you're not in the military, the whole just buy guns and set up a perimeter is autism, in my opinion, for most people. With that, crypto, I'm still buying crypto here and there. If it keeps going down, I might uh, jump on a chunk just to be good for the long haul. Although I think crypto has already shown itself to not quite live up to the libertarian fantasies of, oh, yeah, it's going to be the total hedge against inflation. Now, in fairness to crypto, if you have one of those private USB wallets, much harder for them to come after your money if they so choose. Then again, if crypto is not worth anything, will they care? So we actually have to get to the point where people value crypto as a regular means of exchange, not just some speculative investment. As you've seen, crypto falls faster than the S&P 500 or even precious metals. It goes through much more rapid fluctuations. You guys can debate that if you want, but let's proceed. What I have been doing for some time is I'll go on eBay, buy those 90% silver Walking Liberties, Franklins, not so much as an investment. I see it as if I have many Goldbergs, I'll pass them down, or even my nieces and nephews. Every family should have their own treasure trove of precious metals. It's kind of like a heirloom. You keep it for extreme emergencies. We're not quite at that point, in my opinion, but it's something to look at. I don't think you're going to get rich off of precious metals, but it's certainly something you should have. Moving on from those lovely subjects, I wanted to ask you guys briefly, do you think the simp economy is going to collapse? I would say I'm not sure. If you look back in the Great Recession, the industries that did very well were actually like the beer industry, even some drug industries, because people get depressed, there's not times of plenty, they want basic creature comfort. So I could see actually these dudes in low wage jobs getting destroyed by inflation, still wanting to know games so you can get laid. I've known quite a few dudes, low income, and they find their sense of self worth, their value as a man, their masculinity in having sex. So it may not go anywhere. As much as we'd like to have the mindset, the kind of Cope MGTOW mindset, like, my balls are good, rest don't matter. That's a Maren Morris song. Uh, they would predict that women are going to come flocking to men because the economy is bad. Perhaps some chicks, but they could just do OnlyFans. If they're still under the wing of mommy and daddy, they'll be fine. They might have a job themselves. So I'm not convinced that the simp economy is going to collapse like people are projecting. That seems to be a misplaced vengeance fantasy. But who knows? Maybe we'll all be able to get these trad wives in like a couple of months because oh, I can't make money. Um, that's what happens when you make all this and you take Ulta Beauty and you take the foundation and you take the brush and you shove it up your ass. It's a shame. It's a tragedy. So what can we do? But that's not a major focus of this video. Then again, some of you will go, no, God, we want to sing for you. I have no designs of the whole Patreon thing. I don't need another taxable event on my income. But if you are so inclined, which would be very irrational and insane to do, I'm okay with gift cards like Amazon or Bezos Chan, eBay, that kind of thing, because I can use those for research material on occasion if I need everyday items like fluoride-free toothpaste, hint, hint, those sorts of things. I'm fine with that, but I'm not interested in Patreon, any of that nonsense, because it's a waste of time. And again, most people they need to conserve whatever fiat they have left. So that's addressing those folks um, as far as their curiosity. Let's move on to what really matters. How is this potentially going to impact state sovereignty? I've said before, one of the reasons I made videos again is I started to see what I was talking about play out in, real life. So the problem for the government is this, and I've tried to warn the liberals, the progressives, that you have to be careful in pushing the envelope too hard. You can upset people, and at least if they can keep some kind of job, they have their 401k, they shake their fist at the TV, you'll be fine. But when you reach a point, as you're seeing with the Bidenistas, that they can't control the economic narrative anymore, they can't control the idea that everything is going to be okay, just give it a little bit of time, that's when you have problems. As much as they're spending money, it's not having the same impact. In fact, the infrastructure plan that was enacted last year, I believe, has shown that because of inflation, it's become cost prohibitive. Many of these projects can't take off. And that was the argument, that you would have this work going on and it would stimulate the economy, but it may be not enough. They might be calling for another injection by the end of the year. So that is a potential issue because the boomers may have enough money stored up. They might be able to survive for a bit, but think of other groups for a second. Younger folks don't have much in the way of resources, all right? And so if the government can't just keep injecting the money, stimulating the economy as they were doing in the past, by the way, that money, yes, it did stimulate the S&P 500, and it was also going into crypto. So don't tell me this crap about how crypto is separate. There was there were people taking that money and putting it into their crypto accounts, buying altcoins or even buying Bitcoin. Younger people don't have resources, so they're going to start feeling the pain and saying, well, is there any future in this country? There will be those who have property, don't have all that much debt. This is where the power politics really comes down to it. We have the Democrats who understand power. This is why when they were in opposition, they brought out BLM and Antifa to destabilize the Trumpists. Conservatives don't understand how to actually use power because they have this sort of, we can't go that far mentality. So they looked weak. They kept saying law and order, but they couldn't pursue law and order. Complete failure of propaganda right there. This brings me to a gentleman pictured here. This is Boves. He was an antagonist of Simón Bolívar, one of the founders of modern South America. He revolted against the Spanish Empire. Boves was at least tangentially associated with the Spanish Empire. He was aligned with them, although not entirely in agreement. Even though the Spanish Empire was a rich aristocracy built upon forced labor, they were so afraid of losing their control that they said, and this guy was the centerpiece of it, they gathered up a bunch of the Indios, the indigenous, and the black slaves, and they said, go kill your masters, rape their daughters, and take their property, and you'll be the kings in this new world order once we crush the rebellious factions. I'm saying this and acknowledging that Bolivar himself was kind of a bit of a leftist, but he was more of a militarist leftist. He wasn't a Bernie Booty Boy type, right? The government run by the Democrats, there's only so much they can say about, millionaires and billionaires. That's going to go only so far. Bernie Booty Boy is only going to go so far. You got to be more aggressive. You got to be rougher. So what they could say is send out these groups and say, that guy, he's got his house paid off. He's got a nice car, whatever. Seize his assets and it'll be yours and you'll be a king. That's what I think they're going to do. 18 to 24 months would not surprise me because when you get to the point where no one trusts the government on the economy, they don't trust the government on protecting them. And this is another aspect. Why have they continued to criminalize cops doing their job? I mean, yeah, there are cases when they go overboard, but why do they do that? They wanted to make sure that law enforcement is paralyzed and will not respond. And they also criminalize individuals who are trying to police their own communities. We've seen many cases of that. They're trying to whittle away at self-defense so that once these people come after you, if you defend yourself, you're going to be locked up. That's at the core of their agenda, to be perfectly real with you. People don't realize that tough on crime policies, even mass incarceration, were there elements of injustice? Absolutely. But they're designed to craft a healthier society because you take people who are antisocial, who don't observe rules, who can't be trusted, and you put them away, or in some cases, they get taken down, they get plugged. What we have transformed into over time is the society that Judge Bork predicted in his 1990s book, Slouching Towards Gomorrah. We would begin to deify and worship literal scum and parasites and criminalize anyone who is virtuous or trying to at least halfway do their job. So, this is the direction that we are being dragged in. And conservatives have this just paradoxical position of, yeah, we need to let people out of prison, the First Step Act. We need to, scale back. It'll make people want to vote for us. And they don't realize they're actually making it worse by and large. It's for all these reasons, the economic, the security problems that we are seeing, stuff such as these Boogaloo boys. And what happens is you'll have a large, underclass of men. I was also referring to this in the Black Pill book, where men are disenfranchised economically, sexually. They might have a job making $14 an hour. They're getting destroyed by inflation. They can't save for the future. Even if they do, they see the stock markets that, just whiplash all over the place. They might have a girlfriend, but they say, if I marry her, am I going to get cucked? Am I going to have a daughter that's going to be doing OnlyFans or diversity porn? Is my son going to be turned into a trans? And they have less and less to lose. The boomers still do. Like, one of the moms of these guys was coming out and trying to do the soy hedging, like, oh, I strongly condemn. But a lot of young men, especially white and Hispanic, have less to lose because they don't have much invested in the system due to the fact that the system has been, slanted against them. They've been denied opportunities. These are the dudes that are more inclined to say, well, screw it, you might as well take a risk. And strangely enough, I was talking about this back in 2020, why revolutions fail. We have this quote down here. This was taken from Russia because there was actually a revolutionary who would report on others, so they got arrested because he figured the only way for change to occur is if everyone was feeling the pain, so to speak. So what should be done here? I have only one hope, but a very strong one, of the government. Do you know what I expect from it? That it put away more people, that students be kicked out of universities forever, sent into exile, knocked out of their usual ruts, stunned by persecution, cruelty, injustice, and stupidity. Only that will forge their hatred for the vile government and the society that looks on indifferently at the brutality of the regime. Exactly. So you can claim that these Boogaloo boys, oh, it's just an operation. And even if it is in part, there are folks who are genuinely following it because they're saying we have nothing left. Myself, I've got a decent job, I have a house, I have the responsibilities. But guys who have low-wage jobs, who are struggling in the dating market, a lot of them would say, there's no American dream for me, so why should I care? Why should I observe and respect all this? It's precisely how the Democrats are pushing too far. And I believe if they indict Trump, which they almost certainly will, that could be the spark. Not that a lot of these young men really like Trump in their heart of hearts because he's a bit of a con man, but that would be the excuse. Oh, now you've crossed another line. You're trying to jail a president, and he's an embodiment, imperfect, of course, but he's an embodiment of our interests. They might just decide to go crazy. It's something I don't wish on anyone. I think civil conflict is terrible. I was talking to a gentleman who actually lived through the collapse of the Balkans, and he said that people would kill you over a loaf of bread, over a gallon of milk. That's how bad it was. You certainly don't want a large-scale civil conflict, but it might happen, right? Just because you go around with here to facts. I've been trying to do this for a long time, but you can tell people, for instance, most of the evidence of fraud in the 2020 election just does not add up if you really look at it, in an objective manner. It's irrelevant because if they've heard it, it's become real. And so that's going to be the outlook of both sides. That's why we're so polarized. Who knows, though, maybe that's the grand agenda, reduce the population by having a large-scale civil conflict. In any case, be smart, get a decent, stable job, cut your expenses, store up food, and
Don't be afraid to be kind. You can give cash to people. I give to panhandlers. I don't have an issue with that. Some people say, well, they're going to use it for the wrong reasons. Your intent is what matters. You don't have to give it to the same person every day, but there's nothing wrong with it being kind and thoughtful about other people, especially in a difficult time. So have fun and be safe.